Today I need to tell you something very few people in my life know. Something that cost me my 3 children, my family's approval, everyone's judgment, but gave me back something I thought I'd lost for good. The will to live again. My name is James. I'm 68 years old. I was married for many years to the mother of my children. I have 3 kids I love more than anything: Tyler, Mateo, and Amanda. And a few months ago, I made a decision that turned this entire family upside down. I fell in love with Melissa, the woman who worked in my home for 10 years, and I decided to marry her. But before you close this video, give me 2 minutes, because the story I'm about to tell you is not what you're thinking. What Tyler said to me when he found out, it's burned into me forever. And I'm going to tell you exactly what it was. But first, you need to understand how it all started. When my marriage ended, it didn't end with betrayal or a big fight. It ended slowly, like a candle fading out without you noticing. We became scheduling partners, not life partners. We respected each other, but the romantic love that had been gone for years. I signed the papers, left the house, and suddenly found myself alone in a silent apartment. James, 68 years old, who had always had a noisy family around him, waking up to coffee, he made himself in total silence. Tyler, Mateo, and Amanda lived nearby, each with their own lives. And I fell into something people rarely talk about: the loneliness of someone who apparently has everything. Melissa had worked in my home for 10 years already, before any of this. She was the one who kept that house running when I traveled for work, when my ex was sick, when the kids were small and needed someone steady nearby. She wasn't just the person who cleaned the house. She was the person who knew I didn't take sugar in my coffee, who could tell I was stressed before I even opened my mouth, who had everything ready the right way without being asked. Melissa knew my routines, my silences, my fears, sometimes better than I did myself. And when I was left alone, she was still there. There was one specific day, a Sunday afternoon in autumn, the kind of afternoon that feels heavy for no clear reason. I had decided to put up a shelf in the living room. It sounds ridiculous to say now, but at the time, it meant everything to me. It was a test. I wanted to prove I could still handle something on my own. 3 hours later, screws scattered across the hardwood floor, 2 holes in the wall in the wrong spots, the shelf leaning against the corner with nowhere to go, just like me. I sat down on the floor, back against the cold wall, and started to cry. It wasn't about the shelf. It was about everything it stood for. The empty apartment, the quiet Sundays without children's noise, the feeling that at 68 years old, my life had reached a crossroads, and I no longer knew which way to go.
Melissa walked into the room without a sound. She saw the screws on the floor, saw the shelf in the wrong corner, saw me sitting there. And she said nothing. She didn't rush to help. She didn't pretend not to notice. She simply walked over and sat down on the floor beside me. And it was in that moment, that exact second, that our eyes met. And I froze. I don't know how long we stayed like that. It could have been 2 seconds. It could have been a lifetime. But something in the way she looked at me was different from every time before. She wasn't looking at me like I was her employer who needed help. She was looking at me the way you look at someone you actually see. I felt my heart pounding in a way I had forgotten was possible. A warmth rising slowly in my chest, mixed with a deep fear. The kind of fear you feel when you realize something is about to change and you have no control over it.
We leaned toward each other slowly, a gentle, almost involuntary movement, as if the gravity between us had suddenly increased. And inside my head, a full-scale war in silence. James, stop. She works for you. This can't happen. What if she turns away? What if you destroy 10 years of something that works? So much uncertainty, so much fear. But my body didn't listen to my head. I leaned in a little more, and then I noticed her perfume. That scent that had been part of the house for years, and I had never really paid attention to. Flowers with something warm underneath. Subtle. Real. I took her hand. Slowly. Carefully. The way you hold something fragile that might break. And she responded. Surprisingly, without hesitation, her fingers wrapped around mine. We sat there holding hands on the floor of that messy living room, not speaking, not kissing, not doing anything else. Just that. Just those two hands joined together in the middle of scattered screws. And from that silence came the most honest thing I had ever felt in my life. What happened in the days that followed that Sunday was a period of doubt, of fear, of glances that looked away in the hallway. And it was Melissa who made the hardest decision first, not me. She tried to leave, twice. What Tyler, Mateo, and Amanda never knew is that it was Melissa who tried to end everything before it even started. She came to me one day and said she was going to quit, that she didn't want to complicate my life, that she wasn't right for me, that I deserved someone from my world. She was the one who walked away. I was the one who went after her. Twice. James pauses a moment, takes a breath. She said to me, "James, you deserve someone from your world." And I said, "Melissa, you are my world." That might sound too romantic, but it was the most truthful thing I had said in years. When I decided I wanted to marry Melissa, I brought Tyler, Mateo, and Amanda together. I wanted to be honest, face to face. I thought, they know me. They've known her for 10 years. They'll understand. The silence that filled that room was the kind that sits on your chest. And then Tyler, my oldest, the person I always considered my best friend, said, "Dad, have you lost your mind? Melissa is the housekeeper. She's 20 years younger than you. Everyone knows what she wants, and it isn't you." Mateo was more calculated. He said I was going to be the laughingstock of our friends, that I'd bring shame on the family, that I was being manipulated by loneliness and couldn't see it. Amanda, the youngest, the one I always thought understood me best, was quiet for a long time. Then she said, eyes welling up, "Dad, I can't watch you do this. She's not on your level. You have nothing in common." And the line no father ever wants to hear, from Tyler at the end, "If you marry her, we won't be there." About the age difference, yes, Melissa is 20 years younger than me. Does that concern me? Honestly, yes. But tell me, does someone's age determine whether they truly listen to you? Whether they'll be there on a night that feels endless? And about the so-called intellectual level, that word, coming from my Amanda, broke something in me. Because Melissa, without a university degree, without titles, understands people in a way I rarely saw in anyone with a master's. She understands silence, care, being present when it matters.
We got married. A small afternoon ceremony. One longtime friend, Melissa's sister, two cousins of mine. Tyler, Mateo, and Amanda didn't show up. That day held simultaneously the most beautiful and the most painful things of my life. While I said yes to Melissa and watched her eyes shine, I knew that outside, my 3 children had chosen not to be there. For months, Tyler barely responded to messages. Mateo went months without calling. Amanda sent a message saying she needed time. My grandson's birthday, Tyler's son, was a day I spent waiting outside the party venue. I went in at the end, gave a 2-minute hug, sang happy birthday, and left before the cake was cut. 2 minutes. With my grandson. On his birthday. I'll be honest, there were moments when I asked myself if the price had been too high. Not about the decision to marry Melissa, I never doubted that, but about the loneliness that choice brought at a time when I needed my family most.
And you know what surprised me deeply? Melissa never once asked me to choose between her and my children. Not a word of bitterness, not a comparison, not an ultimatum. On the contrary, she was the one saying, "James, call Tyler. Go visit Amanda. Don't leave Mateo out. They are your children. Never give up on them." The woman they called a gold digger was the same one pushing me back toward them. I want to ask you something, and I'm asking you to really think before you answer. When you reach a certain age, 60, 65, 68, who decides what makes you happy? You, or the people around you? There is a point in life where we spend so much energy pleasing others, our children, our family, society, that we stop existing for ourselves. And we arrive at the end convinced that we were good parents, good citizens, good at everything. But we were never good to ourselves. I am 68 years old. I don't know how much time I have left. Nobody does. But I know that when a doctor one day sits across from me with that serious expression, and that day is coming for all of us, I don't want to look back and ask myself, why didn't I let myself be happy when I still could? How much should we sacrifice at a certain age to keep the people we love comfortable? At what point does giving in become love? And at what point does it become betraying yourself? I don't have that answer, but I know life has an expiration date. And no child, no matter how much we love them, will live our old age for us. Loving someone others don't approve of isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the greatest act of courage a person can have. The courage to look at yourself and say, I still deserve to be happy. Today, a few months later, Tyler reached out to me. He was the one who called. We had coffee for 2 hours. No resolution, no conclusion. But we talked. That's a start. Mateo is still distant. Amanda sent a message on my birthday. Small signs. I take them with gratitude. Melissa still makes my coffee the right way. When I wake up, she's there. And when I look at her, I still feel that same pounding heart I felt that Sunday afternoon, sitting on the floor with screws scattered all around the two of us. Sometimes happiness doesn't arrive the way you planned. Sometimes it was already in your house for 10 years, waiting for you to find the courage to see it. If you're going through something like this, or if you have a family member who made a decision the family won't accept, tell me in the comments, because I know I'm not alone. And maybe we need to hear each other more than we need to hear the world's judgment. If this video touched you in any way, subscribe and hit the bell. Take care of yourself.